Yesterday was kind of a rough day. Obviously, I got chased off the beach down in town there. You know, I can't be surprised. That was a great resource there, and the idea that there would be other people there is not at all surprising. As I was running off the beach, you know, running over sand, I kind of sprained or at least strained my ankle. I injured my ankle. So, you know, I was kind of hobbling out of there. But after a while, I don't think they were chasing me, the people there. I think they just wanted me out of their space, you know, I mean, because they didn't know who I was. And, you know, I thought about either going back. I mean, I've got the Glock on me, but it's like I'm just one guy with a Glock. I don't know how many people were in there. But, you know, even with that, it's like I don't want to threaten anybody, you know, because then I'd become the marauder. You know, then I'd be the bad guy, you know, because they're set up down there. You know, I should really just leave them be. I mean, the other thing that flashed in my head is like, should I take like a white flag or something and go back? Because, I mean, it'd be nice to team up with people. But it's like, again, I don't know them. You know, it would just take one shot, me walking up to their house, wave my white flag. They could just shoot me right in the chest or really anywhere without medical aid. And, you know, I'd be dead. So yeah, I mean, I decided to just split. And, you know, I hobbled out of town. You know, my ankle's still bothering me. You know, I'm hoping it's not anything major. But on the way out, I did stop somewhere. I saw a house, and there's a garden behind it. And, like, all the food was just rotting on the vines there, which made me think, you know, people are not at this house because, you know, they would have eaten that stuff. So I checked it out, and the garden didn't really have any food so much anymore. It was just stuff, like I said, rotting off the vines, but that was good because it was just all these seeds. So I collected as much as I could in terms of seeds. You know, I bet I can use those later on. They're all different kinds of plants. I'll go through those later. But yeah, there was just a lot of stuff. And then I decided to, you know, test my luck with the house, you know, because it seemed like there weren't people there, otherwise they would have eaten the stuff. And I got in, and it was kind of a treasure trove, actually. There was a lot of food in the cupboards. In fact, I was thinking it was going to be kind of a problem, like how am I going to carry this stuff, because I just got my black backpack. But I found some duffel bags, so I was filling up the duffel bags. But, you know, even those are going to be awkward, I was thinking. But I found an awesome find. I got a frame backpack, like one of those old school ones, like with the metal exterior frame that they had down in the basement. And that thing is awesome. It is just it can hold so much more than the black, like, tactical pack that I'd had. I mean, the pack I had, it looked cool, it had lots of different pockets, but it really couldn't hold that much stuff. I mean, it was like bursting at the seams just with the stuff that I'd had from the bucket that Monica and I had stashed. So yeah, the frame pack is just awesome, and it's so much more ergonomic on my shoulders. It feels great. So I'm really happy to have that. The other thing that I found, and I'm glad that I found a pot, a real pot. I found this, you know, in their kitchen, and at the moment I found it, I realized I had also left my little metal cup back, you know, distilling water back there, because I ran out of town. I didn't grab it, so it was I was kind of elated, and then like realizing how depressed I would have been if I had realized I'd forgotten the metal can right away. But yeah, so that's great. I got food, I got a lot of juice, and it's been 23 days. I did the math. It's been 23 days since the aliens thing happened, and juice is kind of a nice treat. It was the kind you don't have to refrigerate. It was just in their cupboards. So I got a couple of those, and those are also going to be really useful bottles, you know, after I empty them out, because they can hold water. I also got some jugs, empty jugs, out of the recycle bin, so I got those, and I'm going to be using those today to collect up some water. Now, down in the valley here, there is some water down there, and I'm going to be accessing that, but it's still salty. It's still a salty water. It's kind of brackish. We're not that far from the ocean still, so I'm going to be going down there. I'm going to get some of that salt water, and I wanted to still that, and I can't really build another one of those solar stills, at least not here, because under the forest canopy there's just not enough sun to make it work, and I don't want to go looking for a field back down there and get shot by, you know, one of those people. So I'm going to stay up here, but I can use wood fuel to distill water. So I'm going to be preparing for doing that today. I'm going to get some water, and the way that I'm going to do it actually is using some trash that I found on the outskirts of town on the way out. It was a real find. It was like one of those places where people like dump shit that they don't want to pay to recycle at a transfer station, like mattresses and all sorts of stuff. That was like a treasure trove of all sorts of little things, bags, containers and stuff. I grabbed a bunch of different things. In particular, I grabbed some metal refrigeration tubing that was in the back of like a refrigerator. I pulled that stuff out, and I think I can use that for doing some water distilling. So using fuel instead of the sun's natural free energy. So a little bit more work, but at least I can do it under the canopy of the forest and everything. So that's my plan for today, is to fill up all my water bottles using a different technique for distilling water. I just got back from grabbing the salt water down by the bog, and while my ankle was just feeling a little stiff this morning when I woke up, it really started throbbing, as I was going down there. Even though I had the walking stick, I was trying to keep my weight off of it. It's really bothering me, so I'm trying to keep it elevated. I got it on my backpack here, just ow, just trying to keep what's hopefully a small problem from getting into being a big problem. But I was able to get the water. I put it into this recycled glass bottle here. The reason I chose this one is because I can boil the water right in here, so that'll allow me to get it evaporating into a gas. The idea of distillation is that the water evaporates off, the salt obviously doesn't evaporate into the air, so you capture the steam as it goes through this pipe. I'm going to be inserting the pipe into here and making sure that the pipe is dangling into the open airspace that I left in the top here, not down into the water, because you want to be capturing the steam, not the boiling water. So I'm going to extend the pipe in there. I've got a little piece of cloth that I'll be able to use to kind of like jam in the sides to try to get a pretty good seal so that all the steam is going through this pipe here, and then I'll capture the water after it's traveled through here and it's cooled off, and the steam turns back into a liquid and it starts dripping out the other side. Now this was a refrigeration coil, and they used to use Freon. Now they use tetrafluoroethane, which is, I guess, it's less damaging for the ozone layer and all that. It's also a little bit less toxic, but both Freon and the tetrafluoroethane are both so air soluble that I'm sure that whatever was in here is long since just evaporated out into the air. Now there could have been bugs and things that crawled into here, and the steam, I'm thinking, will help clear all that out. But I'm going to let it run for a little bit before I start drinking anything out. But it should be reasonably cool. So that's the plan. The reason I have the pot next to me here is because I don't want to be putting this glass directly over flame, because I could crack the glass. So I've got the pot. I'm going to boil the water I have in the pot, place this into the pot with a little bit of a spacer. I'm just going to put some stones or something in the bottom. Place that in there. That'll get the water in here boiling, and it'll drive the steam through there. In order to dig here, I've just got a digging stick. I don't have a shovel or anything on me. That'd be a great find if I could get that at some point. But one great find that I found that was in my pack the whole time is gloves. Gloves. When I was transferring stuff between the two packs, I realized that I'd have these gloves, which are a great idea to have in a bug out bag, is to have just gloves so you're not damaging your hands when you're doing all the inevitable work that comes along with bugging out. So I've got this digging stick, and I'm just going to start digging into the ground here. And what I'm trying to create is what's called a what is it? It's like a Cleveland steamer. No, it's a Dakota foxhole. I'm gonna be wait. It's a Dakota fire hole. It's a Dakota fire hole. But honestly, it doesn't really matter what it's called. What matters is what it does. And what it does is that you have a pit on one side where you're going to do the burning, a pit on the other side which supplies air underground to the burn pit. And the benefit of that is you're doing the fire is burning under the ground. The heat's a lot more concentrated. It's less visually obvious from the surrounding area, and because the burn is hotter and cleaner, there's a little bit less smoke. There's not zero smoke, but there's less smoke. So I'm going to be doing that here and using that to heat this stuff up, because there are still, I know at least some people down in the town, and again, I don't think that they're looking to follow me, but you know, better safe than sorry. So I'm gonna start digging with this guy. The only problem, yeah, there's a lot of roots. After a lot of scraping at the ground, I got 2 nice big holes here. Actually, after I finished the second hole, the air hole, I realized this one actually doesn't even need to be this big. You know, whenever I've seen pictures of Dakota fire holes, it's always 2 holes that are the same size next to each other, but really this one's just here to supply air, so I kind of wasted a lot of my time making this one as big as I did, but it's done, and now I just need to connect the 2 on the bottom, and really that passageway only needs to be, you know, about yay big. You know, as long as I can get my arm through it, that's going to be fine. I used a wood stove at my, you know, my late house that is now no more, and even for the entire wood stove to burn, it was just a 4-inch hole to supply the air to that. So certainly with a small fire like this, just having something you can reach your arm through should be fine. So I'm gonna start digging around on this side and on that side. See, okay. And okay, and we're through here. Yeah, okay, so I can reach through. I've got all this extra dirt from having dug these, and I was thinking the more height you create on this side, the more of a chimney effect you're going to get, the more air draw you'll get. So I was thinking what I might do, or what I'm going to do, is to kind of take some of this stuff and make sort of a wall around this thing. And I think that might help to make it you know, burn a little bit more you know, fiercely. At the very least, I suppose it kind of blocks more of the light. It's only a difference of a few inches, but I think that it might make a big difference. That's what he said, or she said. I don't know. I collected up a bunch of leaves and dried stuff I've got over here. Now it's been kind of misty. Nothing's really particularly dry. But if you go out into the forest, usually underneath cover, you're going to avoid things that are covered with dew. And I just kind of picked off the leaves off the top surface. Also, really dried little pine branches, in this case hemlock branches, are a really great way to start a fire. So I've got a lot of that kind of stuff. And I want to make just a dense bed of it down here where I can light up those leaves. And the leaves will light the little pine branches. And that should work out all right. Now again, I said that we've had a lot of moisture here. It's very dewy. As I was digging, the ground is very damp underneath, so I'm not really worried about starting a forest fire. You know, you might think, well, starting a forest fire might be secondary during a time of crisis, but the last thing you want to do is add more SHTF situations to your pile. Like, you know, we got the aliens, the marauders, and, well, actually, I was almost the marauder this time, but you know what I'm saying. I don't want to also be dealing with a forest fire, so it's good to, you know, practice good camping safety even when you're not just strictly speaking camping. So the leaves are, as expected, lighting up reasonably well. The question, though, is going to be how well the bigger sticks light up. Right now we got some smoke because it's starting, but the whole point of the Dakota fire hole is that it should be heating up and getting rid of some of that smoke, hopefully pretty soon. The fire seems like it's going out all right now, so what I want to do is I want to start heating up this pot. I can keep adding more sticks to the side, but I'd like to get this water warming up. I was thinking that, you know, the fact that I brought these sides up, I think it is going to help with the fire in terms of airflow, but it makes it a little more difficult actually to put a pot on it, because one of the great things about a Dakota fire hole is that you can kind of put the pot that you're cooking on just at ground level, and here it's going to be a little bit more bumpy, but I think, I'm sure it can still work, but it was just a consideration I just had. So I've got these two big sticks. These are pretty waterlogged, so I don't think they're going to start burning right away, but I'll have to keep an eye on that. So I've got these guys, and I'm going to use those to support the pot. And I can already feel a lot of heat coming up right there. So again, the purpose of all of this, aside from it just being really cool, is to start desalinating the water that I've got in here. And what I need to do to make that happen is I need to make a hole in the top here. And you know, before I put this in, what should I use? I was just thinking some bark, or maybe this stone. The bark's not going to float. I just need some kind of a spacer on the bottom to keep the glass from being in direct contact with the hot bottom of the pot. Not that I think that's super necessary, but I think it'll be a little bit of insurance. So I'm gonna, wow, the smoke's, there's still smoke here. Okay, so I got those guys in there. The fire's starting to get big enough where I can blow in the air intake area, and it's actually starting to give it some air that way. So it's starting to come together, and now I'm gonna put this guy in. Now before I pop it in, I want to put this metal tube in here so I can capture the steam as this starts boiling, and I'm just going to use a knife to cut through the lid of this here. So I'm going to pop the knife in, being very careful, because an injury could get infected. Alright, and now I've got a hole in here that is just about the size of this tube, so I'm going to just see if that fits in alright. Yeah, and it fits in okay. There's just a little bit of a gap, and what I figured I would do is take some of this fabric and I can just kind of shove it in around the hole there. But first, I should probably run this tubing out straight. There we go. So we want it, the steam to leave the area and condense over here and then drip over into there. Alright, so this will go in, and then I'm going to take this stuff and just shove it around the corners here. Alright, so now we've got that in there. One very important thing to keep in mind when you're dropping the tube down into the whatever vessel you are using for boiling off the salt water is you want to make sure that the tube doesn't go down into the liquid itself. You want to keep an open air space in there. In this case, I have about a third of the top is open just for air, and you want to have the tube in there because you want to make sure that you're capturing the steam and not having the tube down into the water where the pressure is pushing salt water through your tube. So that's very, very critical. You have to make sure that the tube is just in the air and not down inside the water. This has finally started to pick up. The fuel is actually kind of sustaining the burn now, and the water in here is beginning to boil. So now at this point, all I really need to do is wait for the bottle and the glass jug to boil. Once it boils, the steam is going to travel down through this tube here. As it goes through, it's going to be cooling off and condensing, and that's going to fill this tube up with pools and puddles of water, But the steam, the pressure of the steam is going to keep pushing all those pools and puddles out to the end, and then they'll be dripping out, and I'm going to use one of my recycled containers to collect the water on the other end. So at this point, all I really need to do is to wait and watch the magic happen. Please subscribe and tune in every Friday at 4:30 New York time for a new video. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so both through Patreon or PayPal.